What's going on, folks? Another edition of the Unfiltered podcast here. If you're checking off, of course, on YouTube, of course, my YouTube page at youtube.com/at Earnest Christian. We had started doing these tiers, EJ's tiers, last week. Not tears of me crying. Yes, I'm still crying, but the Florida State Seminoles not getting to the playoff. Yes, I'm boycotting that game. You'll see why. I'll explain that later on a future podcast, next couple of days, hopefully. But we started doing this last week because you guys know I love ranking things. I do power rankings every week. Typically every week on Hello Podcast, I do my top 10 and bottom 5 every week. And I've been placing those on the feed here as well, too, on YouTube page as well. But last week I decided, you know what? Try something new. Let's start doing this in tiers. And that way it gives every team in the NFL some sort of representation. Because I feel like, especially this year, of all years, the best way to figure out which teams are contenders, pretenders, frauds, you name it, is to divide them into tiers. Forget numbers. It's in tiers. So we did last week. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of folks that listened to that episode last week. Enjoyed it as well too. So you know what? We're gonna ride the rest of the year doing this. Now, obviously, it's only 2 weeks left in the year, so we're probably end there. Maybe we do for the playoffs. We'll see what happens there. But if you watch on YouTube, of course, here's the screen here. I definitely divide these into 7 different tiers. A little bit of comedy, of course, too. A little bit of tongue in cheek. Yes, that's what I do. So the bottom, so here's of course the bottom 5 here. The bottom tier here, I label it. Why are we still talking about you? Yeah, for real. The Commanders, the Cardinals, the Patriots, the Chargers, the Panthers. You guys have been in Cancun chilling for weeks now. Why is talking about you? You know, um, just saying. Next tier up, New York, LOL. Once again, the Jets, the Giants, both trash. Though the Jets, did their thing this weekend, but still, it is what it is. These two teams are, I think the Jets are obviously next year. The Jets will be in a better position to compete because obviously, Aaron Rodgers coming back next year. We shall see how that plays out. The Giants, of course, are a mess. The 10 minutes of fame of Tommy Cutlets that didn't last long. I mean, it's what it is there. But yeah, New York, LOL, another disappointing year for New York football. Then you got the next tier up, the frauds. And I got 7 teams here who I believe are just some of the most fraudulent teams we've seen all year long. I'm talking about you, the Packers, the Broncos. Yes, the Broncos have now moved down to fraud status now. Losing to the Patriots, really, dude? You feel me? By the way, the Packers, though they won this week, almost lost to the Panthers. Just saying. They still got a faint playoff chance, but yeah, ain't happening. The Saints, they're fraud as well too. Still in the playoff hunt, but yeah, don't believe in them either. The Bears, interesting. They're still frauds, but they've been playing better football. I did actually consider putting the Bears in the frisky category up one tier up, but they're not good. Let's be real. But we're seeing some good football from the Bears in the last month or so. Justin Fields has been playing some good football. We'll see how that situation goes with him and whether or not they decide to commit to him. Because remember, the Bears do get the 1 pick in the draft this year by virtue of Carolina's pick, because Carolina is the worst team in football now, and that pick goes to Chicago, obviously. We'll see how that plays out this offseason. The Vikings, of course, they melted down the last couple of weeks. They're frauds as well. That's not hard to define. The Titans, of course, yeah, they're a mess. And then, of course, the Falcons. I mean, the Falcons are the we call them the fraud cons for a reason. Okay, we call them the fraud cons for a reason. They're frauds. All right, and Alden Smith may not be the coach at the end of the year. We'll see how that plays out. Next tier up, we got frisky teams that are, may not be great teams, but any given Sunday they can, surprise with a win here or there. The Bucks are. I'll tell you what. I flirted with putting the Bucks in a higher tier, in the dangerous as hell tier. But let's see what happens at the end of the year. But they are possibly going to be the team that we all thought that the NFC South will bring a division winner with another year of having a division winner as with a losing record. Like last year, the Bucks did that at 8-9 going to the playoffs. The Bucks may actually have a winning record. We'll see. The Steelers, they were frauds last week, but that was a huge win against the Bengals this past week. And I'll tell you what. So much more about the Steelers. And look, how they've been able to win 8 games this year has been very, very. I don't know how they've done it. Given the fact they've had shoddy quarterback play all year long between Kenny Pickett, between Mason Rudolph, who was good last week, between Mitchell Trubisky or Trefrisky or Trubisky, whatever we call him these days. But somehow, some way, they have 8 wins, and somehow, some way, they're still in the playoff hunt. And in fact, I actually said on the Huddle podcast on Tuesday night that I believe. I said this with only 6 toes down, though, that I think the Steelers, with all their pedigree and their defense and Mike Tomlin and what they do there, I think they will find a way in the playoffs. Now, I say that with some extreme resistance, though. But yeah, Seahawks, frisky, yes. They feel like frauds to me in some ways, but they got 8 wins. I gotta give credit. The Jaguars, they went down to frisky status now. Although, man, this last stretch, the last month, man, it's been rough for the Jags. I still think they win the AFC South rather, but man, they got a lot of work to do. The Bengals, they wouldn't be down here if Joe Burrow wasn't here. And I'm not saying Jake Brown has been good for this team, but they wouldn't be in this category if Joe Burrow was healthy. And Jamar Chase was healthy last week too, also especially. The Colts also frisky. Texans are frisky. They play in Week 18. That could decide the last playoff spot in the AFC. And the Raiders, I gotta say it, the Raiders, Antonio Pierce, hire him. Don't make the same mistake you made 2 years ago when he had, what was it, Samachi, his name is the coach, the interim coach that came in to replace John Gruden. The interim coach held things together, took you all to the playoffs, almost won a playoff game that year, and all you do is say, "Yeah, we're good now. We're good, fam. Let's bring in Josh McDaniels, who only shit the bed in year and a half." Do the right thing, Mark Davis. Hire Antonio Pierce as your coach. The Raiders actually have an outside chance of winning the division or as a wild card, so they deserve first status. Even though Aiden McConnell was terrible in that game against the Chiefs. Then you got another tier up now. 3 teams, dangerous as all hell. I'm talking about you, Detroit Lions. I'm talking about you, Buffalo Bills and LA Rams. Detroit, I want to put a contender status, but I'm still, I still have some resistance in the Lions overall. I don't see them as a Super Bowl contender, but yeah, they go win a playoff game, but it depends on the matchups, of course. Buffalo, dangerous as well too. They should be contenders, but this year's played out. You've seen Buffalo has been inconsistent all year long, so you can't really trust them either. And then LA Rams. I think the Rams are extremely dangerous. They still have recent Super Bowl pedigree. You still got Matthew Stafford. You still got, Cooper Kupp was healthy now. Puka Nacua, who's having a phenomenal rookie year, who might or may not win the rookie of the year award, depending on CJ Stroud and him. And he also got Aaron Donald. Yeah. So the Rams, I can see them because after the Niners and the NFC, I think the Rams can beat any of those teams in any given Sunday, including the Eagles, including the Cowboys. Although the Cowboys did beat them this year, but I think they could beat any of those teams on any given Sunday. Just saying. All right, next tier up, we're contenders, but teams that I believe I could see playing for the right to go to the Super Bowl, but they do have issues. The Eagles obviously struggling the last couple of weeks. They did beat the Giants this week, but that wasn't pretty, obviously. The Cowboys, they beat the Eagles 2 weeks ago, and then all of a sudden they lost 2 in a row. They have their own issues. The Dolphins finally won a game against a team over 500 this year. Could do it again this week against Baltimore. We shall see. The Browns, they're there. I put the Browns in Super Bowl contention. Let me tell you why. What they do travels well. What they do as a bell cow team that can run the ball well, that plays stout defense, that's January football. And Joe Flacco, for all the talk about Joe Flacco and this and that, he's been really good. He's been really, really good this year. And then there's the Chiefs. Listen, I know the Chiefs have been struggling this year. It's been a struggle. But here's the thing. The Chiefs are still at Pat Mahomes. And on any given Sunday, I can still see them playing for the chance to go to the Super Bowl. And that's why they're here. Okay? Now, are they the favorites? Hell no. Is it likely to be an AFC title game? It's 50-50 at this point. But yeah, they got their own issues. But as long as they have Patrick Mahomes II as their quarterback, you have to give them a puncher's chance to at least get to the AFC title game. That's all I'll say about that. And then finally, last tier up, Super Bowl 58. I put both the Ravens in the Super Bowl 58 with a question mark. Ravens and Niners, they just had that big game this past Monday. Ravens blew them out. They're on level. Obviously, probably one could argue the past San Francisco. These are right now the clear 2 best teams in the AFC and the NFC. And who knows, likely the Super Bowl matchup, we'll see what happens there. This game also probably decided the MVP case for Lamar Jackson. All that argued that Tyreek Hill or Chris McCaffrey should be number 2. But if you're going to consider quarterback, your man is Lamar Jackson. So again, this week's EJ's Tiers. Again, on youtube.com/Earnest Christian. Check out all of my podcasts, Earnest Podcast, and all that good stuff. And that's it from me. And we will talk to you later.